Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Circle of the Earth Fellowship. Tonight, as you see from the thumbnail, we have a special guest with us, and we will get into introductions like we always do, and then a little housekeeping, and then we will get into the meat of the conversation after we get a testimony from our sister Morgan and her proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. So glad to see y'all, and thank you for being here. Like that little thing showed, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps us get out there and get more pieces of the puzzles to the table, because that's what we want to do. We want to share each other's pieces of the puzzle that the Father's given us and brought into our lives, and hopefully others can glean something from that and grow in their relationship. So welcome, everybody. Let's go ahead and say our hellos, and we'll get into it. So, oh, weird, wrong one. There you go. Sweet. So let me add that. Okay, perfect. First up, we got our brother Robert, always here with us. I appreciate you being here, Robert. Hope you're excited for the conversation that we get to have, and yeah, welcome, brother. Yeah, sure is. And that also means we got a beautiful feast coming up. If you look in the back there of Robert's background, we got a sukkah. So yeah, I'm excited for Feast of Tabernacles. We'll be going away from the 4th to the 11th.
Robert has no sound.
Oh, okay. I think it changed. I think the sound issues that I was having is now affecting Robert. Okay, give me a second, Robert. I apologize. Whatever it was doing to that did it to all my sounds. So, all right. Sorry, Robert. I think I fixed it. Okay, perfect. If you'd like to say your hellos again, I apologize.
Okay, let's see. Was it about a 30-second delay? Anyhow, no, I said shalom. I says not Shabbat shalom because it's getting dark earlier, which I don't like. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this week, starting Wednesday. So
Yep.
it's just a Sukkot.
Yep. Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Booths. Get to go. There is 3 pilgrim feasts, right? And it is interesting that most people just observe the Feast of Booth, because I think that's readily available, makes sense. And it's it's a little different style than just come to the temple, but yeah, I'm excited for it. That's my children's favorite, their favorite feast. So because we always get to go somewhere and do things that they haven't got to do, and stay in places we haven't got. So anyways, let's keep it moving. We also got our dear brother BV. Welcome, brother. Good to see you.
Hey, same here. I always love the conversations we have. I just want to say thank you for letting me come on and appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love your questions, brother. So appreciate you coming on. And for those who don't know, right here we got Stephen from Youth Torah Fellowship. He has, if you'd like, Stephen, let me see, are you in chat? There you go. I will make you mod if you'd like to, are you mod? Looks like you're already mod. Not sure what's going on. Okay, I will share that here in a little bit when I get some time to grab that link. But anyways, he runs Youth Torah Fellowship. He does a monthly Q&A, as well as they have a Discord. So definitely check it out. But yeah, welcome, brother. It's been a minute.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Yes. And last but not least, we got Wildly Unpopular, Morgan, coming and joining us for the first time as our special guest. Super excited to talk about this topic of dreams and demons. But before we get that, if you'd just like to say hello to everybody.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Good to be here.
Yes, indeed. Sweet. All right, let's get into the housekeeping. We're going to do that real quick, and then we will get into the into her testimony, and then into the topic. So let's go ahead and pull this up. Got to do it over here. Share screen. We're doing which one? This one. Sweet. So first and foremost, I'd like to, and let me pull this up bigger for everyone. Get this full screen. Shout out Take on the World. Chris and Liz Bailey run this YouTube channel. They allow other content creators to come on their channel and for us share our pieces of the puzzle with their community, with their family. So we definitely appreciate them giving us the ability to do so. And if you haven't subscribed, if the first time you're seeing us, please throw us a link. It looks like we just hit 1.1K. So thank you to all the new subscribers. After this video, I am going to clip the previous video where I announced the winner of the Sefer Bible. So it was Alex. I can't remember the last part, but I'll clip that. I'm going to make it a separate video. And then, Alex, you will have 1 week to claim that. If it's not claimed by that 1 week, unfortunately, we will, unfortunately for you, fortunately for the next person, they will then get a chance to claim that prize. So, but I'll do that just so you can see it and maybe have a chance of following up. But anyways, as we like to always do, read out the comments from the last video. Our last video was episode 1, Aliens. It was a really good conversation. Curtis from Subjectively Offensive joined us and added kind of some we'll call it new age perspectives to this idea and how it kind of relates to our modern examples of it. So, but over here on Taking the World, we got a couple of comments. I'm going to let those load up. And thank you all for your comments and your thumbs up and sharing it. It really does help the channel grow. We're already a niche of a niche in the community. So getting that, support that way is huge. So anyways, let's go ahead and read these. We got Witness for Christ 7778 says, where can I see that iceberg map? I'll have to talk to Curtis and see if I can get that link to add it to the notes. Byron Gilmore said, we are watching you. Yeah, and I think a little people can kind of take that to the extreme where they let it affect their current life, and I don't think it's a super good idea. Not sharing it. And let's see. Spudnika, I think it's saying, said, sorry to say that I usually am not interested in your videos. Today was interesting. I think it was hearing the guest background and their journey toward the truth, and the one who's in the truth. Aliens is pretty relevant topic. It was good hearing the broad range of possibilities regarding the alien deception. I will search through your library and check out some more of your videos. Thank you. Thank you for your support there. Moonglow said, thank you, sister, for always showing us support. My wife said, congrats on the Zephyr winner. Woot woot. Yep, we'll get that out. And then, great show. I agree with you, Robert. And then over on the Circle of the Earth, it was said, that was awesome. Really good input from everyone. I agree. Robert, great show. I agree. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I will butcher it. But thank you, Emissaria Elohim, for your comment there, brother. All right, sweet. And then last couple things. Discord. Check Discord. It's not showing those whole time, was it? There we go. Sorry. And on Discord, if you are interested in joining the panel or joining the after show or the community in general, link is in the description for the Discord. And then if you'd like to support the channel, we don't do YouTube no stones to those that do. But if you'd like to support, you get a T-shirt, you get to support us a little bit, and or a mug or a hat, and you get something out of the exchange. And then I just really like to shout these out: Bible Gateway, Bible Hub, and as well as Sacred Texts are all great resources to look into all the different versions in the lexicon. So definitely check them out. All right, so we're done with that. Let's go ahead and get into asking Morgan a little bit about herself and a little about her journey into her faith, and as well as we'll get that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, like we always do. So yeah, without further ado, Morgan, we'd love to hear your testimony, as big or as small as you'd like.
All right. Well, it all started when I was young, and I was going to a Southern Baptist church with my grandmother. And then I got really, really into youth group, really into church camp, really enjoyed that. And I really dove into that basic mainstream Christian culture of, like, wearing the Christian t-shirts and the purity rings and taking your Bible everywhere you go with you and everything like that. And then as I got older, I started to just fall out of it. Definitely by the time I was 18, I was 100% out of the faith, and started getting really interested in witchcraft, actually. And I became really good friends with a Satanist. I met him when I was 15. By the time I was 18, we were absolute best friends. And we were doing spells together, summoning demons together, doing like full moon rituals and stuff like that together. And we got sort of inseparable and sort of lost in this world of darkness, I guess you could say. And then I started doing my own studies when I found out that I was pregnant. I sort of isolated myself and started learning things about, basic stuff, Illuminati, all the kind of like pothead conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And then I definitely sort of started to learn a little bit about what they do to children out in Hollywood, and not just Hollywood, but really any of the people who are extremely wealthy, what they do behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of stayed there. I stayed there for a while, and I learned a little bit about trafficking over the span of a few years. Then after I had my son, he had a reaction to childhood shots, and that prompted me to want to study those. And that flung me into everywhere I'm at now, basically. That was my starting point. And I was studying the vaccines, and I saw that the ingredients were quite literally very similar to the potions that I had seen in my spell books before. And that sat really heavy in me. And I spent a lot of time with that and just pondering that, thinking on that. And it felt almost like electricity or a light just flooded my body. Like things that didn't make sense before made sense. All these dots connected. Yeah, it was like information download radiating through my entire body, running through my veins. And I asked God, I was like, is there anything that I've overlooked? And I've heard him say to me, the shape of the earth. And the reason I was already familiar with that is because I did look into it for like 5 seconds and thought it was silly and moved on. So he's like, yeah, give it one more chance. And so I decided I would. And back in that day, Nathan Thompson was kind of the top dog for the shape of the earth. So yeah. I found myself in his group, and I was looking at some things from him, and I was asking some questions. But I think everybody kind of knows how Nathan Thompson can be. So we had a little, spat. And I left that group and kind of did my own thing with it and decided, well, they're all reading the Bible. All these flat earther crazy people, they read the Bible and they talk about the Bible. So let me start there. Let me go through the Bible. Mm-hmm. But I had a hard time shaking the New Age and the witchcraft off of me. It was still so deep in me. And I told myself that the only issue I had with the shape of the earth was astrology. I was 100% hardcore into astrology, believed it 100%. And for astrology to work, you need certain things. You need certain things about the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets. And if those things are not true, then you don't have astrology anymore. And I decided, well, I know astrology is real, and I don't necessarily know that flat Earth is real. So I clung to the astrology. But I made a deal with myself that if I could find a way for astrology to work on a flat Earth model, that I would let go and I would fall into flat Earth. And sure enough, through some study, I was able to find how there are, sort of like a planet situation going on. It's just not what we're told. And we still have a sun and a moon, and they still do what they do. It's just not 100% what we're told. They're just not as big and not as far away, basically. And once I was able to move past that, God was able to bring me to a place where I was able to let go of the astrology. It was a refining process. So eventually,
Absolutely.
I was able to move. Right, I was able to move out of that mindset, but it's funny, I had to make it fit into what I was already comfortable with before I could leave what I was comfortable with to move into that. So it was a little give and take. But yeah, so I guess what led me there was vaccines, and then what helped me truly believe it was, funny enough, astrology, which I've decided to have nothing to do with anymore. So
Yeah, I actually think that's a really interesting point because I always like when I first was coming to, the true earth mentality, it started out with a dream, and we'll get to that, but I later was like, wow, if like I always thought it was interesting that we were born on certain days under certain stars, right? But that was kind of a fluidly subjective idea because these are things that are light years away, right? Like uncomprehendable amount of distance between us and these things. And that being the case, it didn't really make a sense how they would cosmically affect us, right? These balls of gas and dust and fire or whatever, how they could affect our personality and who we were. But now coming more to the true earth and seeing more as a clock, as a, like as it describes in Genesis, what they're for, right, is makes so much more sense on a topographical plane as opposed to us being a speck of dust in an endless void with all these other specks of dust and balls of gas, floating. Like, how could that possibly cosmically affect us in that way of a globe? So I do think that's a funny, an interesting transition from, being more new age and the astrology stuff, then to moving into biblical cosmology and then kind of seeing the difference between the two. That's awesome. Sweet. Okay, well, let's get into it. So kind of starting where I just left off. Where this episode we're going to be talking about dreams and demons, and those things coincide very well, and it kind of transitions nicely from our last episode 1, aliens. They are here, and we kind of worked out that these are unclean spirits, that these are what are commonly called demons, and of course within different religions and cultures and cults, these are viewed and explained differently. But taking the Book of Enoch and the scriptures into account, they paint a good picture of what we're dealing with here when it comes to that. But that being the case, it's seemingly one way that they interact with a portion of humanity is through dreams, and typically people call those dreams nightmares. Previous to that, we had Vicky Joy Anderson on to talk about sleep paralysis, and even the connection between these events with what believers would describe as unclean spirits and their correlation to alien abductions and the accounts of them. So it was really interesting. If you haven't checked that out, definitely go check that out. But that being said, I'd love to kind of hear I'd like to start maybe on the darker side, right, and we can end on a light note with the lighter side, right, with the positive things that have come out of dreams. So if you'd like to give a second and maybe talk about an experience that you've had, more on the darker side of the topic of dreams, and yeah, we'd love to hear that story.
Yeah. So I have been able to see demons my whole life. I never really called them demons up until a few years ago. I called them anything you could imagine, spirits, beings, whatever. And but I was able to see them as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult. And of course, the more involved I was with the occult, the more prevalent the demons were in my waking life, and I was able to see them more. And so it wasn't really a big leap for them to mess with me in my dreams. And when I was in my early 20s, there was one dream in particular that even now I can't really shake it. And I was asleep, and I was in my dream, I was in my bed asleep, just laying there. And there was a demon on my legs, sitting on my thighs. And he was just completely jet black. He had these ram horns that curled back towards the back of his head. They were black. He had like a sinister grin, these spiky, sharp teeth, a serpent tongue, and these big, huge, like 6-inch long, if not longer, talons, and which were also black. And he was perched. They sit like Spider-Man. If you ever watch Spider-Man, he sits on the tops of the buildings on the cities, and he's perched, kind of like a bird. And demons sit that way very often. And so it's perched on my thighs, and it's digging its talons into my thighs. And I can feel the pain in the dream, and it's so strong that it actually wakes me up. And when I woke up and opened my eyes, everything was exactly like it was when I was asleep. I was laying in my bed the exact same way. It was perched on my legs the same way. It had its talons in my legs. And when it realized I was awake, it chuckled. It didn't make a noise though. It was just visually it chuckled, and it leapt off of me and just disappeared. And I could still feel the pain. Even as I was awake, I could feel the pain in my legs. And I yanked the blankets off and I looked, and there were no marks or anything. But the pain, it was just crazy. Like, I'm looking at my legs and nothing is wrong with them, but I can still feel like I was stabbed in my legs. And it was insane. Are you muted?
I sure am. Not last episode, but the previous one with Vicky Joannis, and we talked about sleep paralysis, and very so much like that, right? Where you are in your own room, and you have like that same event where it's like, I'm sleeping, I know I'm sleeping, I know I'm right here, and but one thing that kind of happened to me with the sleep paralysis events in mine is it's like those beings knew what I was thinking. Like they knew, and an example of that is in my sleep paralysis at one part in my dream. It started dragging me off the bed. And when it was dragging me off the bed, I said to myself in my head, well, I know as soon as my toes, are over the edge of the mattress, I know that I am dreaming. I know I'm about to fall and I'll wake up. But sure enough, my toes stopped right on the edge where not one single cell was past the bed. And each time an event like that happened within that dream, it was as if it got more powerful, like it got something from that exchange. And so for me, I've never seen them in the waking, but I've definitely seen them like in that sleep paralysis event. For me, it was this tall, shadowy, misty figure. And there wasn't like really any definition other than it was a tall thing. And for me,
Yeah, that's their most frequent, their favorite way to present themselves, from what I can tell.
yeah, and that kind of leads me to talking about dreams and certain events. So a lot of people, well, right now in science, right, like they have no idea why humans have to sleep or why anything has to sleep for that matter. They don't understand that process or the importance of it. And I was talking with Robert a little bit earlier, and just about this is like, why does that happen? And even more so, you were just explaining like how people see similar things. So within dreams themselves, a lot of people are like, hey, have you ever had a dream where it's like you're running in mud? And so many people have had that dream. If you talk about dreams of losing teeth or going bald, lots and lots of people have had those same dreams. So it really makes you think, why is it that we have these shared experiences that we can kind of talk about with another and be like, wow, I've had that same thing, where they've literally become cliches, right? Like the going to work or school with just your underwear. Like they've become these memes, for a lack of a better term, because because it happens. So kind of talking about that and your experience, have you, like, where do you kind of see dreams and how they play a part in our lives? Because, and real quick, just a little addition is because there's also, right, people who don't go through these type of things, that don't experience the metaphysical side of things. And so it can kind of sometimes seem to them from our side that we're crazy, right? Because we're talking about things that they haven't experienced, so they don't really have anywhere to start off from. So yeah, just I kind of threw a big cornucopia at you. You can pick and choose what you'd like to kind of talk about there.
Well, I definitely had a close relationship with someone for years and years who was just not very spiritually inclined in any way, shape, or form. Not in their sleeping life, not in their waking life. Just everything was very science and black and white and could be explained away. And it is frustrating to be a person who is a dreamer and is very spiritually inclined and intuitive, to have conversations with people who are just not that way, because they do look at you like you're totally crazy. And I don't know why, because there are so many, for every person who's not that way, there's a person who is that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you saying half the population or more is crazy? I don't think so.
Yeah,
So
it's almost
dreams,
kind of like being mad at, because I could never do those. And I don't know if you remember in school those books where they have a pattern on them, and if you look at them a certain way, a 3D image pops up. I could never do those, and I was like, why can y'all see these things and I can't see it? So I get it, but at the same time, I'm not then mad at the person or think the person's crazy because they can see that thing that I can't.
yeah. Well, this person, they expressed to me from a science standpoint that like there's some sort of force field in the world, and that we're all part of that grid, and that he thought that I was like maybe a soft spot or a weak point in that grid where weird things were able to pass through me. I don't know. It was I don't know where he got that from. He got it from a book or something. but but dreams can be many things. There are sometimes you go to sleep and your dream is very simply just mimicking what you watched on TV, or a fear that you have about something that's supposed to happen the next day. So sometimes it is just like subconscious stuff just unloading.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times when it's very clearly something else. There are times when it's very clearly a message directly from God giving you a warning about something, or giving you an answer to a prayer that you asked or a question that you asked him. There are I don't know. It seems to be a place, like not just that you're in a state of sleeping, but it's almost like it's a place, like
Mm-hmm.
like your dreams are a place, and that spiritual beings have access to you in that place. And I'm not saying they don't have access to you outside of that place; they do. But there's something very different in the dream. They're able to interact with you in the dream in a way that a lot of people don't seem to interact with them in waking life. I
Yeah.
don't have I personally don't have that problem. They seem to interact with me just fine, whether I'm awake or asleep. But most people, it seems like it's when they're asleep. That's when these spirit being good and bad beings can come in here and do whatever they want. For a lot of people, people who are weak in their faith or don't have a relationship with God, I feel very sorry for them to be in a dream state and have demonic attacks, because what is their defense?
Yeah, it's like having a house that you're trying to defend with a whole bunch of open doors and open windows. It's like they have all of these things that are tying them down or opening up the hot gates of Thermopylae, you know, as an example, into their lives. And I totally agree. I definitely think that the dream realm is a place. Now, I won't call it a physical place, but it's a real place. And it definitely, you know, I there's so many interesting things with dreams, like shared dreams, where people will have the
Yeah.
same dreams and they describe it from their side as well as the other person's side, where they essentially are themselves in each dream, but they had the same dream. Of course, there's prophetic dreams, and both positive and negative, and a lot of personal life changes as a part of my life experience were through dreams. And so yeah, they definitely play a big role. But and I think kind of jumping back to sleep paralysis real quick, I think they that sleep paralysis style event is happening. They either like interject themselves right before you fully transition to that sleep realm, to that dream realm, or they are, you know, kind of harassing you, jumping you as you're jumping back from sleep to consciousness. Um, so yeah, it's such a big kind of plethora, right? And then I was talking to Robert earlier, and he was basically, you know, like dreams haven't been that significant in my life. So it's another one of those things that can be divisive, right, for those who haven't experienced. But I think that's kind of the cool part of these types of conversations is y'all get to hear it from a perspective of people that these are real things that are happening in their lives. So I'd like to share those with you, and I'll do it in a pretty succinct way. But so one of the biggest things is my wife. So when we were just dating, this was, you know, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I had this dream, and in this dream, it had I won't go into all the details, but I can remember those details. And, but it had a very, detailed arrangement of events that happened. And so I had this dream that was really on my mind. And so I told my wife, then girlfriend, about the dream and all the events and all the details in their full detail. And consequently, 2 weeks later, that dream came true in real life. And that was one of the reasons why we remained together through the trouble that we were having at the time. And so, you know, that was a huge thing where I literally saw this thing happen before it happened. And in that, it gave me this period of like losing my ego and losing my, you know, putting my pride down and, you know, working through my own emotional stuff, to when that happened, that I already knew how to handle it. And then quickly, the second kind of big dream, when it was, you know, a little bit on the scary side, is what actually jumped me to start looking into, you know, the truth of the earth. And what that was is I had this dream of this huge, I was outside, gray, gloomy skies, and I'm looking up and I see these huge, you know, orange kind of circles. And as I'm watching, all of a sudden, these huge flaming rocks are falling out of the sky onto the ground. And in so much fear, I turn and I start running, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how am I going to escape this? I had so much dread and fear. And then I heard a voice in the dream say, "Do not be afraid." And this peace, this calm came over me. And it literally gave me the strength to turn around, and I opened up my arms wide, and I literally watched the wall of fire and flame, you know, come to me until it hit me and I woke up. And that very next day is when I decided, you know what, I'm not going to just ignore these flat earth videos that I've been seeing. I'm going to check them out. And that's led me to then to Torah and understanding finally, to the book of Enoch, with the book of Enoch, understanding what these unclean spirits are, because I had experiences with them, and I could never, for the life of me, in church, get something that made sense, a description of where they came from that made any sense until that. So yeah, and I got a little bit more to share about my experiences, but if you have any other ones, kind of life changing things that have helped you along the way, you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it.
That I've helped along the way. I don't know that I've ever had a dream that's necessarily helped. Well, actually, I take that back. I wasn't prepared to share this one, but I will. So, when I was pregnant with my son, I moved in with his dad. We got an apartment, and the very first night in that apartment together, I had a dream. I don't know if everyone remembers back in the day, Kick Messenger was like it was like Snapchat before Snapchat, basically. And that's where you go to cheat, basically. So I had a dream that he was using that application to cheat on me. And I saw the girl in the dream. I saw her name in the dream. He was telling her horrible things about me in the dream. He started like packing my things and throwing them out, and he moved the girl into the apartment with him. And in the dream, I would wake up and I would look over at him and he would be asleep, and I would wake him up and I would say, "Did that really happen?" And then he would say, "Yes." And then the cycle of the dream would start over, and I would have the dream over and over and over. And I would wake up in the dream over and over. And it was just the same thing over and over. So finally, I really did wake up. And the first thing I did was roll over. And of course, I think I'm still asleep at this point. I don't even trust it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I wake him up and I'm like, "Did that really happen?" And he looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about?" And I knew I was awake because the answer was different. And I just started bawling, crying. And I was like, "Oh, I had this horrible, endless dream." And I told him everything that happened. And I was so emotional about the dream and so happy to be awake that I totally missed his response to the dream, because it was all real. It was all true. He was really doing all of those things. And it took maybe 3 months for me to come to that conclusion that was really happening, but or to get the evidence anyway. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't even a believer, and God was already talking to me like, "Let me help you, please. Like, you're making horrible decisions." He's like, "Get away from this guy." And I just was not equipped spiritually at that point in my life to receive that message fully. But it did help me, because once I had the evidence, I reflected on that dream. And the way that it helped me was, one, it helped me trust that deep down you know what's real, deep down you know what's true, and trust that that the truth does always come out. And then later, after I developed a relationship with God, it helped me already have trust in Him, because that was when I realized where that dream came from anyway. Yeah. So trusting that He will intervene, He will communicate, and He'll do it by any means necessary. If it has to be a dream, then it will be a dream. And I think a dream is a great way to get someone's attention, because if anyone has ever had a dream like that, or any dramatic dream, if it's vivid enough, when you wake up, you can't shake it.
Yeah, it sticks with you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a dream residual residue, right? That like sticks onto you, and it's not something in your head. It's almost something. Again, I use the word metaphysical, but it's something that's still like, it really is kind of stuck on you. And it's such an interesting feeling. I had, talking a little bit more about the darker side, I had this dream one time where, and I'll kind of explain what I'm saying, but put it as leaf graphic as I could talk about. But basically, one of my sons, as a younger, son, I was sitting there and I was looking at this picture in my dream. I was looking at this picture, what it seemingly was a picture, and it was at first it was very blurry and I couldn't really get it, and slowly over time it got clearer and clearer and clearer, and what I realized was that it was a child, and that child was had like a cord wrapped around them, and that it was hurting them, and when in the dream, when I'm looking at what seemingly I believe is a picture, even though it's morphing, it's almost like, again, my eyes are it's starting to focus and I can understand what I'm seeing is this child that's black and blue because of this cord, and then I realize that the child has passed away. And once that happens, all of a sudden I realize that it's me and I'm holding the cords, and that this child is my eldest son. And it literally, when
Oh,
I
wow.
woke up like I woke up right, out of fear when that happened. And I literally called out that day from work because it was so heavy on me. I could just not stop picturing this image that was, stuck in my mind. And that happens for a lot of things. Another thing I'd love to pick up, talk about, and if any of y'all other on the panel, BV, Steph, and Robert, have anything to say about this, please feel free to jump in. But what do y'all think about reoccurring dreams? Because I'll give you an example. After I saw Jurassic Park, with dinosaurs in theaters, I for a long time had repeating nightmares of dinosaurs chasing me and me barely getting away over and over and over. And I've had dreams in my life where certain events happen over and over and over. And have y'all ever experienced that? Morgan, have you ever experienced reoccurring dreams like that?
I have, yeah. I had a few, especially when I was a really little kid. I would have reoccurring dreams. I don't know. I would think that maybe it's because there's something that you need to face or something you need to change, and it just keeps presenting itself to you until you react appropriately.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like for me, eventually, what it was is I was in the dream and I realized, wow, this is a dream. I keep barely getting away. So it's like I go from running, being so scared, and then it, whoop, almost getting me, and then walk a little bit more, and then boom, here comes another one, and then run, barely get away, slipping, falling, that all that stress. And eventually I had a dream where I went to an island there, the first, Jurassic Park island, but these were all, let's call them genetic defects. There was like the duckbill dinosaurs like playing patty cake. There was a T-Rex who was like a dog and wanted you to throw bones and he'd go fetch it. And the like the ones with the balls on their leg, they actually had a ball on their a helmet on their ball because like they didn't like they could get hurt really easy. And so it was just after that dream, I never ever had reoccurring dreams before. What about you, Stephen, BV, Robert? Have y'all ever experienced those?
I I I remember a couple times when I was a lot younger, I've had like a few recurring dreams, mostly about the subconscious fears that I had of people taking my stuff. Like one time I had a dream where my friends had one of their friends over and she took my coat, and then I woke up and she was there and she took my coat, and that happened over and over again. And then that happened again later, like on a different night. I had that same dream cycle. And like every time I woke up, I went and checked on my coat to see if it was still there.
And then it
And I,
wasn't, and then you'd confront her, and then you'd wake up, and then you'd go to check on your coat, and then it just happened over and over and over.
yeah, but then I realized that my coat was there, and I should get over my fear because it 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 wasn't real. Like I had no reason to fear other people taking my stuff.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
the only like type of experience I've had with recurring dreams.
Yeah, like I've had dreams where what I kind of mean by recurring dreams is like I get that whole step, but I also am talking about like where I'll have a dream and then a year later I'll have that same dream. And then a year later I'll have that same dream. And some of them come and go. Like some of them they'll jump. It'll be 5 years till I have that dream, but I have like a handful of dreams that I know that through my life I've kind of kept cycling through. But the thing is, right, is I don't know that I'm in the dream typically when I'm there. So I don't know how to, necessarily fight it. And something that I thought was kind of interesting that Vicky Joy Anderson brought up was how you can unknowingly, kind of accept offers, make covenants with unclean spirits within your dreams. And typically that is due to, sin, in your life, whether abundantly or in part. Um, so, which is kind of interesting, right? Because then from our side and what we were kind of talking about before, it's almost like, oh, we're bad, right? Because we're having these dreams where other people don't experience these type of things. They don't, the dreams are, usually pretty tame compared to the things that we're describing. And so it's such a interesting dynamic there. You had something to add, Robert? Oh, you're muted. It's okay, bro. I do the same thing.
He's not muted on Discord.
Oh, weird. Is it your head? Like, are you physically muted? I don't know if there's a button or something that you have.
Physically muted. That should be a setting in real life.
That we can have a controller for. So, while we wait for Robert, and we've kind of talking about this before, and I think it really does tie into our topic. We haven't, I guess, talked about it. We've kind of communicated before, but I've mentioned that I think that unclean spirits can talk in your head with your voice and tempt you into do things that thought didn't originate in your head, and often those calls to action of sin.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
You're a little low, but I can hear you.
I can hear you.
You can't hear me? Now it shows me you're muted in Discord. But anyways, so those while he's fixing that, that they talk to, they have the ability to kind of talk to you in your head as yourself, and often those things, those call to actions are the exact opposite of what you've maybe vowed to do, where you said, I don't want to do A or B or C anymore. I want to change those parts of my life. It seems often those are the calls of action to sin that these unclean spirits present to you in your head as yourself. Now, people may say that's a little crazy, but a thing that happened as I was falling asleep is I was there's the song that was being said, and like I was listening to the song, and as I was listening to the song, I started singing the song like in my head, and I wasn't coming up with the song, but the song was being presented to me, and I come to find out this was literally a covenant. It was literally saying, I'll give you lots of money, I'll give you lots of power, just say my name. And when that last kind of proposition was said, I was like, whoa, wait, no. That has nothing to do with me. I want nothing. And that's when I kind of first realized that they could do this. And I think that can contribute in your head, because a lot of us have had that dream where you see yourself and you're watching yourself do something. And even you get, sometimes you're a different person, but you know you're yourself, but you're also sometimes watching yourself do things, and things typically that you wouldn't do. And so I think that kind of correlates there. I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know that I necessarily experience that like as I'm falling asleep, but during the day when I'm just washing dishes or cooking dinner, I will have thoughts. They're in my own voice and they just barge through, and it's something outrageous. All that is always just something so outrageous, so out of my character. And like I'll be scrolling Facebook and there'll be someone who, and it's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing because it's awkward, I guess. Like there'll be someone struggling, and I'll think to myself like, "Oh, I need to pray for them," and this thought will barge through, like, "Oh, I wish they just die."
Yeah. Oh,
And I'm like, "No, I don't.
And there's
I don't wish that." Like,
yeah, and it kind of reminds me of I can't remember what it's called in French, but the English version is Call of the Void. Love to hear if any of y'all else have experienced this, but you'll be driving down the road and you'll just have this thought of yanking on the wheel or hitting another car or doing something extreme that you would never ever do, that you would never ever think about, but it's like this boom that just like you said bursts into your head, and a thought that you would never think.
Yeah,
right,
I've definitely had a few experiences like that. I've even almost done the like super intrusive thought sometimes. Then I like realize what I'm doing. I'm like, wait, I don't do that.
Yeah, like why am I doing this? Right? It almost feels like a dream, right? It almost feels like something that's not just, I don't know. What are you gonna say, Robert? I saw you itching to talk.
Oh, that's my thing with the heights. Is I'll be up somewhere where I'm up high, couple stories, 3 stories or whatever, towards the edge, and I'm in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, just jump over. Like I'm gonna jump. What if I accidentally jumped? What if I accidentally just went ahead and stepped over? Why would I do that?
Yeah, and then you start arguing with yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's seemingly you were arguing with yourself about something that you would never do or think about. And that's why I think they're definitely there. Sorry, what was that, Robert?
So I'll just say that it takes time of maybe just a second, of time that's all compressed that's all happening.
Yeah.
yeah, it happens so fast. You're saying so much, but it only takes like 3 seconds to have like this super long conversation in your mind about weighing the options, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's literally a back and forth. You're like, jump, and you're like, no, why would I jump? And you're like, well, what would happen if you did? And then you like go through this whole scenario in that brief time, and that's why I say it's almost like a dream, because it's like, boom, this whole event happened that seemingly happened. Like you saw the full thing, but it was seconds. So interesting.
Sometimes when that happens, sorry.
Who wants to go?
You go, Robert.
All right. As far as dreams, I'll go through a whole epic, long dream, but they say those dreams actually only take a moment, of time. You go into your REM sleep and then you have your dream. It's only a moment, but you can go through a whole timeline of stuff. I was when I was having microphone problems, and you're talking about the reoccurring dreams. I think someone made a mention of flying on the chat too. So, my most reoccurring is I'm like out in some like field with a creek nearby, lots of animals. I don't know if there's any dinosaurs, Vader. But lots of animals, deer, dogs, cats, chickens, everything. Lots of people. We're all gathered together. And I sometimes I just decide to fly. I don't know. I don't know if I'm showing off or what, but it's like, hey, look what I can do. You know. Um, Oftentimes I'm uh, aware that I'm dreaming, and I take control of the dream. So,
So
what kind
here's
of
something kind of interesting to what you're saying is I've had flying dreams as well. Have you ever had them where like you realize that you're flying and you're like, I shouldn't be able to do this, and then all of a sudden you're not able to fly anymore? Like
I have
on
trouble
command?
landing. I have trouble landing.
Okay. Steven, you're gonna jump in and say something. What was that, brother?
Yeah, I was just gonna say sometimes when those like really impulsive thoughts come and pop up and you start arguing with yourself, sometimes like I argue with myself so hard that I get really stressed out and break into a sweat in a matter of seconds from just like one impulsive thought that I have to not do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What gets me about them is like when I have those thoughts and then I immediately am like, whoa, that I don't really think that, or no, I didn't say that.
Mhm.
I worry, like, am I going to be held accountable for that when I die? Like, do I have to answer for that thought that I feel like I didn't
don't think
even
so.
actually think?
I don't think so. Those thoughts specifically, right? Because it's like it's almost like, and I love how Owen Benjamin says this. He says they're all offers, right? So they're offering um, you know, that thought, and you can either accept it or not. And I think if we kind of honestly think about it and you look at a lot of extreme situations, like people harming themselves, etc., we know that there's an unclean spirit, a quote unquote demon, you know, very much so in that area. Um, and because of that, you know, I think that is call of the void. We are having unclean spirits kind of bash through our physical part to our metaphysical part and kind of manifest those conversations. Because again, one thing that's so interesting to me about that and how you just pointed out is like you immediately are like, whoa, no, I wouldn't do that. Where did that come from? It's such a shock of those thoughts. So I don't think those thoughts are yourself. I think they're offers that are made. And I think, you know, the better you get at saying, no, that's not me, I don't want that, I don't believe that, and kind of rebuking it there in the Father's name through our high priest, you know, through our high priest, is the way to go. So just my kind of thoughts there.
I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that sometimes demons come to you in your dreams to get you to commit the sins that you are strong enough to not commit when you're awake?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Absolutely.
I definitely have, you know, some spots where they kind of hone in on it and try to. I feel like they're almost trying to spiritually weaken you in the dream realm to then hope that carries on to the, you know, the physical realm, where it kind of weakens that your guard, because you almost feel guilty in those dreams that you're explaining. You usually are very aware of the crime, the sin, and you definitely have the corresponding guilt from that. And like we were talking about with those things, you know, those feelings that kind of stick with you, I think you can wake up that feeling of failure sticks with you. So what is one more failure kind of mindset can take over.
Yeah, for sure. What's really strange for me, this is a sin that I don't even struggle with. It's just a sin that Satan has wanted me to struggle with. Like, I guess like my whole life, really, is lesbianism. I'm so not gay. I'm not gay at all. I've never been gay. I'm not tempted to be gay. But when I was a kid,
right?
yeah, when I was a kid, I was a very tomboy, and the adults in my life would make comments suggesting that I was going to be gay. When I was a teenager, I was interested in boys, but lots of girls who were gay were interested in me, and they would come on to me more than guys would. It was weird. And then now in my adult life, in my dreams, you would think that if they were going to try to get me to stumble in that area, But they would present me with attractive men in my dreams, but they don't. They present me with women. And I'm just like, if that's not even a desire for me, then why are you guys trying so hard? Like, you would think that they would try with this thing that I actually feel tempted to do.
Yeah.
It's strange to me.
I don't know if.
And I always wake up and feel gross.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I don't know if you've ever heard of the way Remnant Jeff and Miranda Brennan, but Miranda, she's dealt with that exact same thing. We've actually talked about it before on the show, where her whole life she's just had that struggle of that attack, and same deal, has no desire, never had a desire, and is presented with this thing. And that really, I think that really is a good place to talk about, is that we were kind of talking about before, the cliche, one of those being the incubus and the succubus, right? These creatures that, and within these dreams, is people know they're different, right? They know there's this other part of the dream that they don't typically have, and it attacks males and females alike in various different ways. It's very interesting, the way that they, like you said, they come at us at things that we're not even weak at, or sometimes they come at us with weak stuff. It's interesting. Okay.
What about prophetic dreams from you guys? I know I shared one, but I actually have another one that I feel like is pretty intense, but I'll let somebody else go first.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear one of y'all give a little testimony about some of these dreams.
I've got a good one.
Let's hear it.
So, this was back when they were first, rolling out the COVID vaccine. They were first trying to get everyone to take it. I remember in my dream, I was in the parking lot of a mall, and I was standing there, and then there were these people, and they started setting up booths in the parking lot in the mall. And then they put out signs and started advertising the COVID vaccine at that location. And then there were cars lined up, and they were all getting the jab. And I remember I woke up. Well, that wasn't the whole dream, actually. My dream continued beyond that, way off into the distant future, which is weird because none of this has happened yet, but it was really far off into the future. I saw spaceships, and I saw aliens, which we've seen what they portray as aliens. It was kind of pathetic on their part, but anyways. And then there was nuclear war, and there was asteroids. And I don't remember super in-depth that part of the dream. But anyway, when I woke up, I was like, whoa, that was weird. 2 weeks later, or almost 2 weeks later, they set up booths, put out signs, and cars started lining up to get the vaccine in the parking lot of malls.
Yeah.
You're lying.
That's yeah, the whole beer bug thing is I saw a lot of things creep up, and with that, and it's definitely a heavy topic to talk about, but that's crazy that you kind of saw it coming in your dream. What about you, BV? What about you, Robert? Y'all have any kind of prophetic dreams that y'all have ever been a part of or had experienced?
Yeah, when I heard my first, my boy was about a year old. In my dream, no, I'm sorry, my boy was a year old, but in my dream, I was bouncing a little girl, baby girl on my lap. About 6 months, it seemed like. Same time, my wife comes in at the time. She got caught cheating, So we had a fight. Said she wants a divorce. Blah blah blah. I wake up. Told my wife what was going to happen. She said, "No way, everything's fine." A year and a half later, that's what happened. Exactly the way I dreamt it. So there's something there.
Like a deja vu. I think that's a good
Deja vu.
Yeah, not exactly a deja vu, kind of like a prophetic dream, but I'd like to hear your Morgan, and then I'd like to kind of talk about deja vu for a minute if you don't mind. But love to hear your story, Morgan.
Yeah, so this was a year, or is it 2 years by now? I think coming up on this November would make it 2 years ago, or this October. So 2 Octobers ago, I had a dream, just catastrophic. I woke up and I couldn't shake it. It didn't make any sense. It was very symbolic. So that's kind of what I was struggling with the most. So the dream was I was at my mom's house and I was in the basement and I was on the phone and I was talking to Wes, shout out, Wes plays music. Mm-hmm. And so I'm talking to him in the basement, which is where my stepfather would spend most of his time in the house, would be the basement. But he's not home. I'm walking around the whole basement and I'm going in areas that are like his private areas that he kind of doesn't like for people to go, like his gun shop room and stuff like that. And the rest of my family's upstairs, my brother, my sister, my mom. And a storm starts to come out of nowhere. I'm at the sliding glass door, I'm looking outside, and the sky is just blood red. I've never seen anything like it, even in like a movie. I mean, it was just so red. And then it seemed like a tornado was coming through because things were flying around in the air. So I'm looking out the window and I see my mom's house outside flying around in the air. But I'm trying to make it make sense because I'm in my mom's house on the ground. So there's 2 houses. They're both my mom's house. One is on the ground and I'm in it. The other is flying around and it's attacking the house that I'm in. It's like the house is conscious and aware and angry, and it keeps attacking the house that I'm standing in. But the house, even though it's like hitting the house isn't really taking that much damage. Like it looks scarier than it actually ends up being. So then eventually that house like flies away and the storm is over as quickly as it started. And my stepdad still isn't there. And I go upstairs and it's just really quiet and like kind of solemn feeling. And I was telling my mom, I was like, "Did you see that storm?" And like she's oblivious. Like she didn't even know that there was a storm. So I call her and I told her about the dream. And I said, "I don't know what it means, but something's wrong. I can't figure it out. I've prayed about it. I'm not getting any answers. I don't know how to decode this." I was like, "But something is going to happen. I just know it." And then a month later, my stepdad was sick with what they labeled, COVID. And then by the end of November, he was on a ventilator. And that was when it hit me that that's what the dream was, that he was going to pass away. And it made sense. He was the only person who wasn't there in the dream when the storm hit. So, and because it was about him, he wasn't going to be there anymore. And it was catastrophic. Like we thought my mom was going to lose her house. She was going to lose her cars. She was going to lose her job. But it all ended up not hitting her quite as hard as we expected, just like how the house was attacking the house. But the damage wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
She was oblivious to the little damage that it kind of was.
Yeah, or just that anything was going to happen at all. Just oblivious to any oncoming danger.
Yeah. Wow. And prophetic dreams like that, when they happen, they're kind of, it's a lot like it talks about in scripture, right? Where it basically says when these things happen, then you'll know how the prophecies was fulfilled. And you can sit there and speculate on what it could mean, all day long. But until the prophecy is fulfilled, then you understand how it was presented. It's really awesome. So jumping over to deja vu's, huge interesting topic, and they kind of stole that from the Matrix. There's a glitch in the Matrix. That's how you know. But I think deja vu is another thing, right? It's another French term for this metaphysical experience that people experience, and it's so interesting. I wish Kyle Kleems was here. Wish all of them were here, but specifically Kyle, because he's had many dreams. We were talking about it, Robert. I'd love you to share that story as well. But where you will see a room, you will see a thing before you ever see it, where you have this knowledge of something you shouldn't have any knowledge of it. And it's such a weird feeling that when you feel the deja vu start, it's like this kind of wonderment. You're like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Like, it's almost like a roller coaster when you're just tipping over and going down. So I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about it, experiences with deja vu, and anything else y'all'd like to share about that.
Yeah, so like what I was telling you earlier on that point was, I would be somewhere, the whole deja vu thing. I'd be somewhere where I'd never been before, and it's like I've been here before. In my mind, I'm thinking I recognize this, and I'm thinking what's around the corner of the building and whatnot, and I go around the corner of the building, and there it is. It's just crazy. It's like how in the world did that happen? How do I know that? Not that it happens often, but it happens. It's just weird.
Yeah, and one of my stories that was totally like this was and I some of y'all may have heard this story before, but um, you know, Morgan, do you remember the live action, the first one of the Dalmatians?
I do, yeah.
101 Dalmatian. So I literally had a dream where I had watched that movie, and then in real life, I had that feeling coming on, and it was a particular scene where the guy's on the bike and he's riding it down a grass hill, and it clicked, and then all of a sudden I knew everything that was going to happen in that movie, and the movie had never been shown before. It was the first time it was released in theaters, and so the person I was with, her mind was boggled. She's like, how do you know this is going to happen? Have you seen this before? This just came out. Did you go to the premiere? It was such a weird experience because I had kind of someone else there to bounce this kind of prophetic, or prophetic dream with, and very much deja vu, and it's just such an interesting feeling. Have you ever had experiences with deja vu, Morgan?
I have. I just can't think of any that are notable. They're usually just kind of just small in the moment, like, oh wow, that's weird. I'm pretty sure I've done this before. I've been here before, or
yeah, and isn't it?
Or sometimes even people.
Feeling?
Yeah, it is, because it's like, because then you're trying to figure out if it's real. Like, did I really actually already do this?
Yeah, it kind of makes you question your insanity for a second.
Yeah, it does.
What about BV? You've had deja vu experiences?
Yeah, it's kind of like what we said before. Well, there is one thing my dad had reminded me of. When I was a kid, I guess when my dad explains it, he had one of the very first Commodore's computers. Anyway, he's showing the kids and everything what they can do and stuff like that. I went to bed that night, woke up, and I had a dream. And the only way I can describe this as is when he had me draw, he said, what do you think going to look like? And I drew a window. Now, 20, 30 years later, I can't remember that after he looked in a journal. He's like, you realize you saw windows? I'm like, no, I didn't even think about that, but it's something along that line, yeah.
Yeah, Emissary of Elohim said there was an artificial group deja vu things that Hollywood re-releasing the same movies a second time as if they were new. Some notice, some don't. Sometimes they rename them. Dude, I've also often think about that. I've also had this dream about that has been a reoccurring dream in my life where I'm with these children, and it's like this rock movie, but like set in an 80s futuristic style. And in the movie, one of the things about the drummer is that he has webbed fingers. And like, I swear that it's a movie, but I've never seen it. So I've almost had the opposite of that too. And it makes me question, like, wait, was that really a movie? And it was just so obscure that it was never popular, and so I could never find it. So very interesting idea there. I totally could see how that happens. Okay, sweet. Let's switch over and talk about a little bit something more positive. I want to share a experience that I had with y'all, and love to hear if anything like this has happened where it's kind of helped other people. So I had this desire one day, as I was, praying as I was falling asleep, and I just had this burning desire to help someone. So in that prayer, I was like, Father, I really want to help someone, help me help someone. And so I went to sleep, and I don't know, y'all kind of maybe touched on it a little bit before. I think Stefan touched on it, as well as you, Morgan. But when you kind of have those dreams where it's like on a cycle, like a repeat. Well, I've also had dreams where I was kind of shown this one picture and I could never see anything else in that picture. Well, this particular night, I had a dream like that where I just kept seeing the same image over and over and over. Yeah, and this time it actually wasn't particularly stressful. And what the image was is it was of the back corner of a car. So the piece of like metal that comes down where the back window and the side window kind of connect. And so it was like that diagonal shot of just this part of this car. And I could see the pieces of glass, this look of the glass and the color of the car. It was this maroon color. And it was just that image was stuck in my head. And so as we were talking about how those things can kind of stick with you, I woke up, got ready for work, and as I was going to work, all I could see was maroon cars. It was that car, and I just had this like thing on my heart being like, is it that car? Is it that car? Well, eventually I get to work and I go and work, and it kind of, I kind of lose thought of it. But as soon as I get off and I get back in my car, boom, that thought is right back in my head. And sure enough, on the way home, I just see this same picture over and over and over, and I see all the maroon cars. Well, I'm getting into town, and I'm like, hey, I need to get gas. So I pulled over. I went into the gas station, went and got gas. And as I pulled in, there was two maroon cars, one on the very end and one on the very end. And I had that picture in my head, but neither of them met that picture. And even though they were maroon cars, so I was getting ready to leave, and as I was getting ready to leave, one of the maroon cars on the other end left, and sure enough, another maroon car hits it. And when I see the car, I get this feeling, but I'm like, I'm a little iffy, because as I'm looking at this car, I notice it's a younger girl, and she's kind of rummaging around in her car, and I just all of a sudden got this awkward feeling of like I'm a dude going up to this girl that's all alone, and that would just look weird. So I started to drive off, and right before I got to basically the point of no return, where I was basically forced to continue going, I verbally, audibly heard stop. And when I heard that, like, I knew exactly why I was being told to stop. I backed up, I parked, and I started walking to this lady's car. And I'm like, God, I'm gonna feel like such a creep. This is gonna feel so weird. But I take her, and I go and I knock on the door, and she cracks her door, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I know this is gonna sound so weird. And I basically explained to her, hey, I've been seeing the same picture. I saw this maroon car. It's exactly the image that I was seeing in my dream. It like, do you need any help? and she instantly just burst into tears and started crying and sobbing. And when she like kind of collected herself enough to talk, she was like, "You don't understand how crazy that just was." She was like, "I literally had no money. I'm leaving a bad situation with my child, and I was I have no money for gas, and I was literally praying to God that He could please help me in some way. And as I was praying that, you knocked on my window and kind of startled me out of that prayer." And that's why she got so emotional and was crying, because it was like, boom, that prayer for her was answered right then. And so sure enough, I helped her out. And I often think about that, like what kind of change that has made in her life from that event. And of course, all glory to God. I'm not taking any credit for that. But experiencing the positive side of that, when the Father shows up and He's done the things like the prophetic dream with me and my wife, and the pet prophetic dream about the meteorites coming. And even though that's scary in these times, I've always heard these voices and kind of learned something from those situations. And so there's so much beauty in being able to ask the Father. And so there's definitely a way that the Father in my life has helped me help someone, which I would have never been able to or even think to do on my own. So if any of y'all have any stories like that, whether you were able to help someone with their dream, anything like that, I would love to hear those stories.
I don't think I do, actually.
Interesting. Robert, Steven, sorry. BV, y'all ever had dreams that ended up helping someone in a way?
No, that's where I was kind of mentioning earlier. It's I kind of miss out on the whole spiritual aspect of the things, and having visions or premonitions or anything like that sort. Um, so just missed out on that.
Well, what do you guys think the difference is between a dream and a vision?
So,
Well, I think
go ahead, Robert.
I was just going to say is it possibly I may have gotten a vision at some point, but didn't know it, and didn't act upon it, and didn't recognize it. And I think that the Yahweh will pick out those people who do recognize these things and do act on them, and they
Tries to see.
They do act on them. They do something about them. So that would be the only thing I would think would be a difference between a vision and a dream.
So a dream is like a dream is something that is kind of more astral, where it's not something that is gained, and then when you do gain something, you see it more as a vision. Because like I guess my quick definition would just be visions are why you're awake and dreams are why you're asleep. But I could totally see how in a like even though you have a dream, if I think I'm understanding you correctly, Robert, that if that dream is then used, it's then now more of a vision than it is a dream. What are your thoughts, Morgan?
Well,
I don't have a concrete answer. That's kind of why I asked, because it's something I think about regularly, because I do have one situation where I know for sure it was a vision, which one, I was awake when it happened, but I saw myself, it was a few months before I discovered my pregnancy. I was just in my room. I was still in the New Age, so I was doing my meditation stuff. And I felt myself like come out of my body and like go, I don't know where I went exactly, but went somewhere else. And I saw myself pregnant, and then I saw that it was a boy, and then I saw myself die while having a C-section.
Wow.
And then when I found out I was pregnant, like a month later, I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't really so surprised when I found out it was a boy. But by the time I found out it was a boy, I was like, all right, that's 2 for 3. I really don't want to die. So I got to the hospital, and the birth was horrible. Just, it was extremely traumatic. I literally had like PTSD flashbacks for months after I had him because the delivery was so bad. And they were going to take me to C-section, and I started like screaming and throwing a tantrum because I was like, if you take me to C-section, I'm going to die. I know 100% I'm going to die. And my doctor, she looked at me and she believed me. Like she knew that I knew. And she said, legally, like literally by law, I was supposed to take you to C-section like 30 minutes ago. I've already let you have extra time. He's not going to come out naturally. You're going to have a C-section. Like this is life-threatening for both of you. And she said, honestly, even the C-section at this point would be life-threatening for both of you. This is a bad situation. And so I begged her to give me more time. She said, I'll give you 3 more pushes. If he doesn't come out, I'm legally required to take you. So he came out on the very last push, and I was able to not go to C-section. But I believe I had that vision because if I hadn't had that vision, I would have let them take me to C-section. Why wouldn't I have, you know? So I think he gave me that vision so that I wouldn't go to C-section because I would have died.
Wow, that's definitely, you know, helped you and your son. So that's crazy. My wife specifically said, do not tell her story. She had I'm just going to say it in a nutshell. She had a very similar kind of event happen with her while she was giving birth to our daughter. And we had some pretty cool, you know, like the father definitely showed up for that to happen. So I love it. I love it. So yeah, you know, kind of talking a little bit into more to scripture, right? We see in Revelations that, you know, your young men will dream dreams, or your men will have dreams, and old men will have visions, or young men will have visions, and you know, a lot of those things, you know, towards the end that we're gonna kind of see, and so I think this is an important topic because at least what the world presents dreams, right? You're just going through a DMT trip. You're just having a chemical reaction of your subconscious, right? And which is really interesting that they even talk about consciousness again, because they don't understand consciousness. They don't understand why humans or animals in general have to sleep, let alone dream. So I think it's a great topic to talk about because there's a lot of people out there, you know, like with sleep paralysis, with dreams, with prophetic things that they don't need to, that they can't make out for themselves. It's good to share those dreams and to get interpretations. You know, not saying from the occult or, you know, mystery religions, but you know, with your fellow brothers and sisters who are on the path to truth. So so it's so cool all the ways that he interacts with us and kind of gives us, and you know, I think nightmares is included in that, right? Because we get to feel some pretty deep emotions in nightmares that we typically don't get to feel, and I think that can be humbling for sure. Alrighty, well, so let's kind of dive into the last part of it. We've been talking about dreams a whole bunch, and you know, there's a lot of positive things, and I love those things. But for you, and getting a little bit more back into the quote unquote demons and unclean spirits, you know, I'm sure you've seen, right, the kind of increase in the new age or the occult side of things, where definitely with, like, you know, and I'm not hating on anyone, but like Harry Potter as an example made witchcraft, Wicca, sorcery example. Those things are kind of cool. And with kind of taking the mixture, you were talking before about, you know, kind of the satanic side of it. Let's look at, you know, the Baphomet character, and coincidence that he has or she has or it has of the double caduceus on its belt, right? And that direct connection to the medical world of today. And so kind of, I think with the modern outlook on these things, right? Everything is trying to be kind of dealt with chemicals, where I think actually those chemicals are opening those doors even wider, busting them out, if you will. And we're seeing in our world a
Right.
lot more of this delusion, a lot more of this connection, especially within the let's just call it that side of the world and community, where the perversion that they're trying to spread and share is directly connected to their kind of thoughts about the evil one and the Baphomet and the medical deuces. There's just such an interesting connection there. And then finally with the double caduceus and what you were talking about before with the jabs, and how those are poisons, and how that, again, directly connects to pharmakia, i.e. sorcery, again, connected back to the Baphomet. And as you were talking about the ingredients to potions and the similarity between those and the jabs. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. Did you have like a specific question or?
No, I just thoughts. Yeah, sorry. I know that was an open-ended statement. It's more so just like, does it shock you to see like kind of the prevalence of some of these things and ideas? Because like I don't know, maybe from your perspective, if that was like, I'll just give you an example. When I was growing up, when I was in middle school, we were called names for being skaters. But then as soon as, Tony Hawk came out and the game, and that became more of a widely accepted thing, I was the outcast. And so it almost, to me, seems like the occult, the Wicca, the witches, the sorcerers, etc., used to be more on the niche side of things, but with things like Harry Potter, etc., have kind of brought them more into the open. And I wonder how you, as a person that came from that, kind of, if you're shocked by it, or if it's not maybe as prevalent as I'm kind of indicating. Just your general thoughts about kind of the shift of the society. Go ahead.
It was a little shocking at first, because part of what drew me in was that it was sort of fringe. It was sort of on the edges and the outskirts of normal everyday people and normal everyday life, because I never felt normal. I was able to see demons my whole life, and I was always socially awkward, and I never really fit in anywhere. So witchcraft was perfect for me. And all my friends who were involved with it, they were like that too. They were fringe people on the outskirts of life, and that's what we bonded over. And so seeing it become more mainstream at first was very odd, because it's like you spend your whole life being different for something, and then the next thing you know, it's like the cool thing to be. And I really think, even more than Harry Potter, something that's really pushing it like more modernly than Harry Potter is American Horror Story. American Horror Story is very dark, very evil, very wicked. It pushes all of the agendas. Like, if there is an agenda, it pushes all of them. And it does a really good job of making it very interesting. And I know that I had a point in time where I started to kind of fade out of witchcraft, and that show was actually the reason I dove back into it before I, totally converted out of it. Mm-hmm. And it was because there's a season, I think it's season 3, it's called Coven, and it's about witches. And it's interesting. Especially, so if you're someone who's never done that stuff, you've never read about it, you've never seen it, you've never experienced it, I can see how you can get so lost in a show like that and get so interested. And I had friends at that time that had never done that stuff, And after they watched that season of American Horror Story, they started wanting to come to me and ask me how they could get involved in it, and they wanted to start doing it. So the media plays a really big role right now, and a lot of women in particular getting interested in this. And I've also started to realize how prevalent it is with women, African women, Caribbean women, any islander Pacific sort of situation. They are very into it. They have been for a long time. And I don't know how we missed it. I don't know how
there's that real big
there's
hub,
sort of
right,
like
in New Orleans, right? And that kind of spreads
yeah.
all the way down to the Caribbean and you know the Bahamas, etc.
Yeah, and they're starting to feel very bold, very comfortable coming out on TikTok and letting people watch them do their rituals and set up their altars. I've seen witches on TikTok like comparing their altars and like who can have the best altar, who can have the best this and the best that, and oh look at my spell jar, it's prettier than your spell jar, and it's like they're making it like an aesthetic.
Yeah, like an accessory, like instead of a hand showing off your handbags and your shoe collection, is showing off your altar and your utensils.
Yeah, definitely. It's becoming a fashion statement, a hobby, as like a status in society. It's weird. It's really weird what it's starting to become. But after becoming a Christian, it's not surprising because the Bible says, we'll return to the days of Noah.
Yeah.
And if we're going to return to the days of Noah, then sorcery has to come back, and it has to be big, and it has to be popular.
Yeah, and it's definitely pushing out there. You even see stuff with like seemingly unconnected, like Marvel, but then you get these movies like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse Madness, and then the show with Scarlet Witch. You're getting these themes directly now being shown to people, openly in their face, but as a good thing. We were kind of talking about this before. Oh, go ahead, BV.
No, I was just going to add to that. My wife's been saying it for years. She doesn't like watching any of the stuff that has like heroes and stuff in there that have powers. She has always said this is all bad, and I understand now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's reintroducing chimeric ideas but yeah, so I think that that it definitely plays a part in it, and I think that to me it's very interesting how it's become this fashion statement, because it always baffled my mind. Like, if you believe that there's God and the evil one, Satan, then why would you ever choose Satan? Well, when presented with a lot of the Christian doctrines that are outright contradictory to the scripture itself, of course you have people reject it, and it's kind of set up to be rejected, to join that side. And of course, there is a difference between Satanism and Luciferianism, whereas Luciferianism, right, it's actually a good thing. You're enlightening, and we kind of talked about this, and it totally ties in what we're saying. But back in the day, when people were giving their children to the fires of Moloch, they were crying for joy, not out of pain, right? And so the type of mindset of culture you would have to do to be able to do these things while at the same time thinking that it's good, right? Where it says in scripture, good will become evil and evil will become good. You can see how those type of things are happening, and we can definitely see it right out front within Hollywood, right? And that's why I butted up this show to the next show to being Hollywood Rituals, which we're going to be talking about on the 14th, because it's this is what they're doing. They're showing these rituals right in front of our faces, and it does plant a seed. It plants a seed that gets people interested in. And a lot of people, right, because we've been sold this anti-metaphysical world, right? There's nothing metaphysical. It's all chemicals and chemical reactions. people have a thirst for the metaphysical, and so when presented it like witchcraft from this angle of the fashion statement, it's cool, you can affect real change in your life, positive change, quote unquote, in your life. I could see how seductive it really is. And you're right, they way more target women with these kind of lines of thought than they do men. Not that they don't do men, but what's interesting about that, right, is we look into the past, cultures, and most of their temples were filled with, priestess, not, priests. So very interesting. Sweet. All right. Well, if anyone has anything like they like to add before we close up, we're coming up to the end of the show. But yeah, if anyone has kind of a last thing they'd like to add about this topic, I'd love to hear it. And if not, we can go ahead and say our goodbyes and close up the show.
I just thought if anyone's not seen Morgan's video, I know I've watched that where you had showed them they showing their skulls and showing their wares, and they're like, you do this for that, you do this for that. Oh, if you want to do this, you got to do this, and it's like it's pretty wild. And
They made it better. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no. I better bite my tongue on the last part. So
I was just gonna say real quick, did you ever see, Morgan, where on YouTube they were like, there was a banner, an advertisement basically, where YouTube was like, hey, come do tarot readings with your favorite content creators? Did you ever see that going around?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Where literally there was a banner advertising. You'd click on the banner and it would take you to a whole bunch of different sites, different channels that were doing tarot readings for people, for themselves on YouTube, and YouTube was directly advertising them.
That reminds me of when people were doing blood over intent in FE for a bit. And I didn't understand really what that was. I do now.
Say that again. I missed what you said.
Oh, blood over intent or something like that, to where they prick their hand, draw blood, and then write it in on a piece of paper. They call it blood over intent or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that was a real thing. I couldn't believe it.
I definitely think there's a lot of let's call them pillars of the community, that of the true earth community, that are very esoteric, very new agey, and they're not upfront about that. They walk around the edge of their beliefs and kind of make it seem like they believe one thing when they really don't. It's pretty sad that happens.
I just remembered a dream I had, more positive side. One night I had a dream. I was standing on one side of the table, my mom was standing on the other side of the table, and she told me she was pregnant. And I don't remember how it all happened, but it seemed very real. And then the next morning I woke up, I walked downstairs, and I said good morning to my mom, and I stood on the one side of the table that I was on in my dream. She was on the other side of the table, and we were talking. She was telling me about how she couldn't eat certain things, and then she was like, and then she like paused, considering probably whether or not to tell me, and I was like, because you're pregnant, and she was like, yeah, and I was like, wait, did you tell me that you were pregnant? And I argued with myself back and forth, trying to figure out if my dream was real or not, and I realized she didn't tell me she was pregnant, and it was
like you knew from the dream, and you were so sure that she had told you, but at the same time you're like, but wait, did she tell me?
Yeah, it was weird. It was like I woke up, like I was still sleeping when I was standing there, and I woke up when I realized that I was that was a dream before.
Wow. It's crazy. All right. Well, before we call it a night, I definitely want to share my screen real quick and pull this up for everyone. So if you're not subscribed, definitely go check out Wildly Unpopular's Morgan's YouTube channel. She's starting to do a lot of shorts, as well as she has a great amount of other videos about her testimony and her life. And definitely check her out if you're interested in those type of topics, and because we definitely are, we think they're quite good. So if you're not subscribed to her, definitely go subscribe to her, and it's not even showing anyone, and show her some love. Again, the link is in the description, so a quick way to get there to show her some support as well. Sweet. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our pleasure. We're very thankful that you took some time out of your life to join us on the stream. It's been a blast, and we could keep talking forever, but keep this at about 2 hours, and it's been a blast. So all right, let's go ahead and say our goodbyes, and then we'll skedaddle and get ready for the after show. Anyone is welcome to join and stay as long as they would like. It starts about 15 minutes after the show stops. So that being said, let's go ahead and say our goodbyes and we'll skedaddle. We'll go over to you, Robert. Let you start us off.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. I see all those who will come in to the after show in Discord, and shalom. Have a good night.
Indeed. And BV, if you'd like to say your goodbye, sir.
Hey Morgan, it was nice meeting you. You know, I said it earlier, but I gotta say it again. I find the most brightest people in these communities. I really, really do. I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Nice meeting you too. I guess I'll say mine since I'm already talking.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Had a good time. Sorry, my mic is kind of weird. I'm on my phone. Normally, I have like an actual professional microphone or a headset. But I was happy to be here and had a good time. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We loved having you on. Stefan, if you'd like to say your goodbyes, sir.
Yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was fun being here. Thank you for having me. Are you gonna share my server invite link? I just thought I'd remind
let
you.
me do that real quick. I'm gonna go to a different screen real quick, everyone. So bear with me.
Thank you.
And grab that link. Again, this is for people of all ages, but it is also more for younger people, youth. It is Youth Torah fellowship, so definitely check them out. If you'd like to have some good fellowship with these fellow brave believers, and here's their Discord. That again is Youth Torah Fellowship. So check them out and show them some love. But yes, Stephen, thank you for being here, brother. I'll go ahead and wrap us up for the night. Guys, thank you so much for your continued support. We're past 1,100 now, so it's so awesome. Again, I'll get that video out showing the 3 winners for the Sefer. So look out for that. And if you do see those any of those winners around, especially Alex, please shout him out and let him know that he come over to claim his prize. But yeah, that being said, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the support. All those comments, likes, and shares, they really do help us grow. And until next time, guys, remember that ABBA loved you first. Good night, everybody.
It's your glory, conceal the mystery. is the honor to search a matter.